Hi, I'm David Schenk. I'm an attorney and an enrolled agent, enrolled to practice before the IRS, and I talk about tax issues, estate planning, and asset protection. Today we're going to talk about why Wesley Snipes did time for not paying taxes, but you won't. At least, probably not. So can you go to jail for failing to pay or file your taxes? I often tell clients that people rarely go to jail in the United States for failing to pay their taxes. And most clients find that to be a relief. But some bring up the case of Wesley Snipes, and a few mention Al Capone, both of whom famously went to jail over tax issues. Well, yes, Wesley Snipes did go to jail for failing to file his taxes, but you almost certainly will not. Let's look at how Wesley ended up in jail and how that will almost certainly never happen to you, no matter how long you don't pay or file your taxes. So what happened with Wesley is he was tried on multiple counts of felony tax evasion, and he was convicted on 3 counts of misdemeanor failure to file tax returns. And he eventually did 3 years in federal prison. Wow, you might be thinking, I haven't filed 3 years of tax returns either. But Wesley's situation was probably very different from yours. First, Wesley was famous, and you probably aren't. Second, Wesley was making and owed millions of dollars, and you probably don't. But most importantly, Wesley was advised by, and he believed, people who told him that he had no obligation to pay federal taxes on any income he earned in the United States. And you probably wouldn't believe something like that, hopefully not after watching this video. His advisors told him that only foreign-sourced income was taxable. And even though the IRS and the Justice Department both told him that that was not correct, Wesley persisted in the position that he was not required to pay income taxes. And you, almost certainly, will never take that position. Again, not after watching this video. Well, are you obligated to pay taxes? Yes, you are. Even on income from U.S. sources. No matter what anyone tells you, or what documents they show you, or how much sense it makes to you, every court that has looked at the issue has decided that you and all other Americans, and even some non-Americans, are obligated to pay taxes on income regardless of whether it's foreign or U.S. income. But maybe the courts are wrong. Courts aren't perfect. So you may not agree. The guys with the prisons and the police forces and the guns, they say that you're obligated to pay taxes. Maybe you've read the Constitution, and the Constitution has stuff in there about the apportionment requirements. None of that matters. No matter what you hear or read, never go before a federal judge, as Wesley did through his attorneys, say that you aren't required to pay taxes on U.S. sourced income. And by the way, all the other tax denier theories are also considered invalid by the courts. But why did Wesley go to jail? There are plenty of tax deniers who don't go to jail. Well, Wesley provided the IRS and the Justice Department with a high-profile opportunity to strike at tax deniers, and they took it. Sometimes being rich and powerful has benefits, but very rarely being rich and powerful has a downside. But nobody except Wesley and his advisors, who, by the way, were also jailed, is to blame for what happened to him. Even at the last minute, he probably could have avoided jail if he had simply agreed that he was obligated to pay taxes and he had made a good faith effort to pay his back taxes. But he was just too stubborn, or too poorly advised, or both, to save himself. Okay, enough about Wesley Snipes. What about me? What about our situation? Well, If you're simply failing to file, or you're filing but you're not paying, or you're not doing anything, the chances that you will be criminally prosecuted for tax evasion are vanishingly small. Why? Well, it comes down to this. The government doesn't want to put people in jail for tax issues. Bad politics, and it's bad economics. Most criminal tax evasion cases that result in prosecution are linked to other crimes like money laundering or drug trafficking or embezzlement. And you've seen these prosecution charges where they charge someone with 40 or 50 counts. And while they're charging them with a bunch of counts, they throw in the tax evasion as well. It is possible to be prosecuted for pure tax evasion. This is generally limited to people who are engaged in hiding assets or purposely hiding income or making false statements during an audit or things of that nature. The key here is that the IRS and the Justice Department save criminal prosecutions for extraordinary cases. Don't be an extraordinary case. Okay, so you're not going to go to jail. That's good. But of course, none of that means that the IRS isn't going to make your life miserable if you don't file or pay your taxes. They almost certainly will. But they will almost certainly do it without a criminal prosecution. If the IRS is levying your assets or garnishing your wages, whether it's your bank accounts, retirement accounts, your house, your car, your Social Security check, your paycheck, or any other asset, there are steps that you can take. And note that I have individual videos on each of these programs. So one thing that you can do is you can simply pay off the debt. If you have the money or can get the money, paying the debt in full obviously will stop all levies and garnishments, and the IRS will also lift any liens that they have filed against your property. Another option is to file a collections due process appeal if you're within the appeals window. This is an IRS internal appeals process. It's only going to be available to you relatively early in the process. But they're going to pause any collections activities while your appeal works its way through the IRS process. You can also set up an installment agreement. Once you've established an installment agreement, all collections activities are going to cease. However, any liens that the IRS has filed are going to remain in place until the installment agreement is paid in full, or until you get the lien released some other way. You can ask for currently not collectible status. If you can demonstrate to the IRS that you can't pay your basic living expenses while at the same time making payments on your tax debt, you can be put into currently not collectible status. But be aware that the IRS's ideas of how much you need for your basic living expenses is quite low. For example, the IRS says that if you are a single taxpayer without dependents, you can live on about $1,200 a month. I don't know a lot of people who can live on $1,200 a month. You can also file an offer in compromise. An offer in compromise is a formal offer to the IRS to settle your tax debt for less than the full amount. And while they are considering your offer in compromise application, they're going to stop all collections activities, and the process can take from a few months up to as much as 2 years. Additionally, you can file for bankruptcy. When you file for bankruptcy, an automatic stay stops all creditors from any collections activities, and this includes the IRS. If you have a substantial amount of non-tax debt, this can be a really good option. But not all taxes are dischargeable, and it can be tricky to figure out which ones can be discharged. I have a video on this issue as well. If most or all of your debt is taxes, an offer in compromise is often a better choice. Or you can file for innocent spouse relief if your situation qualifies. If you are or might be an innocent spouse, the IRS is going to cease collections activities while they consider your application. And finally, check to see if you are approaching the 10-year statute of limitations, which is the limit on which a tax is collectible. You might just be able to wait them out. However, it can be a little tricky to determine exactly when the 10-year statute of limitations is up, because there are many situations that are going to toll or suspend the running of the 10-year limit. Disclaimer: this video and any accompanying text is for informational purposes only. The information provided does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. No attorney-client or similar relationship is formed. If you require legal advice, please contact an attorney or other legal professional. This video covers a complex legal area in just a few minutes, and of necessity leaves out much of the detail. Don't make decisions based only on this video.